Well, I love that you said, "Don't you think?" Because I've never really thought of that way, and it's really sweet that you're thinking of it that way. And it's wild because I had a friend, my friend James, he said to me, um, "Alicia, when I think of you, I think of America." And I didn't know what he meant, and now you're the second person saying that to me. I think of America in a few different ways, and I think in a certain way, I guess I can really receive what you're saying because America has changed in its psyche. There's always been all kinds of people here, but now the psyche of America has grown and expanded to accept all kinds of people, although, of course, there's still horrible things going on. But I think our better halves are super aware that this is America, you know.
Welcome to Curious Goldfish, a podcast community where music and curiosity come together through interesting conversations with the music makers of our world. I'm your host, Jason English. You can find Curious Goldfish on all the major podcast and social media platforms, and of course, we have all of our content on our website, curiousgoldfish.com. Welcome to Curious Goldfish, a music podcast about more than music. I'm your host, Jason English. My guest today is Alicia Blue. She's another fantastic guest I've had the pleasure of meeting and talking with since I started this podcast 2 years ago. I'd love if you subscribe and follow wherever you watch or listen to your favorite podcasts, including YouTube, Spotify, Apple, and at curiousgoldfish.com. Every follow and share helps me get the word out about these important conversations and these amazing guests. Alicia is a singer-songwriter who took a pretty unlikely road to Nashville, and she has a new album coming out soon called Country Desire, produced by Shooter Jennings. She's been out on the road opening for Charley Crockett, and we get into where she came from, how she found her voice, and what she refuses to worry about in a business full of noise. So now from Nashville, Tennessee, here's Alicia Blue. Let's dive in. Alicia, I really appreciate your time here in mid-June. I'm Jason. Welcome to the Curious Goldfish podcast. Thank you.
Thanks for hanging out with me today, Jason. Happy to be here.
Awesome. Well, I love the outfit. Love the Waylon shirt, the hat, the jacket, everything. So you're
I
ready
love
to
that you
go.
caught that.
I feel underdressed, to be honest. But
You look great.
well, thank you. Not as good as you, but thank you. So nice to meet you. I guess it's early summer. I'm sure you've got a lot of stuff planned ahead of the release later this summer of an album called Country Desire that I guess you've recently recorded and are probably in the final mixing and mastering stages. I guess, what are you most excited about when it comes to the album?
Well, the album's done. We've already released 2 singles. So the mixing and mastering, I hope it's done because the music's coming out. No, it's done. But what am I most excited about? I mean, it's tough. I think every song is one of my babies. So it's fun releasing the singles because it's like each one gets their own little 15 minutes of fame, you know, for that month, and hopefully it lasts longer, right? But I've enjoyed, at least with these first 2 singles, getting to hang out with the sentiment of each song because they're all so different. So I think that's been my favorite part so far.
Okay. So the album is called Country Desire. Does that encompass a theme? You said the songs are all so different. Like what's the reason for the album choice of Country Desire?
Yeah, the through line is everything is dealing with desire, the consequences of acting upon your desire, the sort of uh, power loss and power gained that exists in desire. And this happens, you know, in just everyday folks' life, you know, and was happening in mine, of course. And there's a lot of longing, you know, and longing and desire are, you know, can fuel each other. So yeah, I think there's just some kind of coming of age of these themes, and I'm writing country songs, and so it felt pretty appropriate to name it that.
All right. Well, that sounds very interesting. Is this an inspiration from a single relationship, multiple relationships, romantic or otherwise?
Yeah, certainly, I kind of put a little of everything in every song, so they're kind of like a composite
Mm.
of relationship. Some of them are like, dominated by one experience with the person, but others are, have a few themes infused. But they can feel, one on one, like I'm talking to the person kind of a
Sure.
thing for sure.
Okay.
Very romantic. The record is very nostalgic, very
Okay.
romantic.
Love that. All right. Cool.
Yeah.
And I guess to promote the album, at least for your purposes, it looks like you're going to go on tour with Charley Crockett a little bit. Is that happening? Is that
Yeah.
like how did that come about? And how cool is that?
Yeah, it's been a dream. We already did 3 dates with him just 2 weeks ago on what was it? We started May 22, um, and I guess that's 3 weeks ago now. And we started in Fremont, California, went to Reno, then back to Santa Rosa, California, and it was a dream come true. We're heading out again with Charlie to open for him in Montana in just 2 more weeks now. So, yeah, I was just telling someone yesterday, like, whatever Charlie's doing on the planet, I feel like there's some kind of, you know, shared vein of what I'm doing because it seems like his fans really were able to just kind of grab a hold of what I was doing in a super authentic way, and I'm really grateful for that. And lastly, I one of my best gal friends and I, after every performance of mine opening for him, we were definitely his fangirls in the front row, singing every word to every one of his songs because we just love him. So,
Yeah. What's the one thing that has stuck out to you so far about the interaction? Is it like in the green room? Is it on, stage, sound checks? Is it like, I don't know if you share the same tour bus or you get that interaction,
mhm.
but like what if you saw this one thing, it's like, okay, like he knows what he's doing and I want to model that, either today or down the
Yeah,
road. Like what sticks out at you?
yeah. Yeah, there was so much just watching him on stage and the way he carries himself and, what he isn't saying, is important. That's cool. The space he leaves and yeah, it's almost like well, it's not all it's pure inspiration, but yeah, there's some kind of whether he's intending it or not, there's some like pixie dust mentorship happening, through osmosis, right? Of me just being a kind of a young artist in the room with him. I don't think I would ever have normally thought I would share this, but I'm gonna because it almost brought me to tears. But I think the second night in Reno, he shouted me out and thanked me for opening, and everyone cheered. It was so sweet. And he kind of paused and he was like, "Yeah, that's what people call the real deal." And me and my friend looked at each other like, okay, like this is not all men can do that. And he did it and he was a true gentleman. And it was also very artist to artist, like true validation. It was so authentic. And that's something I'm going to carry with me literally forever.
That's awesome. I think that's
Yeah.
interesting in this age, right? With artificial intelligence and AI. I feel like the antidote to all that is just being authentic.
Mm.
I guess not to get into like the AI stuff necessarily, but how important is it for you to be genuine and authentic? Are you concerned with kind of where things are?
I tune it all out. I mean, I hate it, but I tune it all out. And I just, um, I go full steam ahead as if that stuff didn't exist because I just don't believe in it. When we made the record in the studio, the crew that Shooter had brought in was just stellar. And one gentleman in particular is this very legendary drummer Jay Belrose, and he kind of gave this speech on our last day of tracking, and it was, in a basic way, like an anti-AI speech, but in the most prolific, deep,
Hmm.
meaningful sense of it. He didn't even have to say the words AI. We all knew we were doing something in that room for something bigger than ourselves. And it's bigger than the problem of AI, but I think we realized there's something in the minority and valuable and rare about the way we did it. And we all kind of felt like this is why we're here and alive and doing this, was to do this kind of thing. And it was magic. It was magic.
That's awesome. All right.
Hmm.
Well, I definitely want to talk about the production experience and the recording
Hmm.
experience. But while we were on the topic of tours and learning and being mentored or picking up some things here and there, you had the opportunity to tour a little bit with Lucinda Williams at some point. I guess
Yeah.
I'd love to ask the same question because I'm a big fan of hers. What the one or two things that you remember from that experience that you're like, okay, I definitely need to do that.
Almost the same stuff I'm saying about Charlie, like, in terms of the fans, they're so dialed into what she's doing, and so are his. Like, those 2 are not gonna have fair weather fans, you know what I mean? And so if they're bringing on someone that's even remotely in the vein of what they're doing, those fans are gonna get it,
Mm.
and they did, and they were so viscerally connected. And I remember getting off stage and hanging out with her in the back, and she's like, "I've got them trained good, don't I?" She meant that in, like, the sweetest way, right? Like, it takes a long time to get to a level where it's such an intimacy with, you know, 500, 2,500 people in the
Mm.
audience.
Yeah.
They're just so close to you and with you on every line you're singing. And so they have so much respect for whoever's on that stage before her. Same with Charlie.
Yeah.
I love Lou. She's the best.
You didn't use the term superfan, and superfan gets kind of thrown out a little bit. And we can talk about a little bit about that. But for you, could you describe your superfan? Like what else do they listen to? What do they like to
Mm.
do in their free time? Do they, are they, do they eat peanut butter and jelly? Like what does that look and
Hmm.
feel like? Do you know what that is, and where is that sort of evolving?
Yeah. I think I'm getting to know. I'm so young in terms of developing the super clear, archetype of who the Alicia Blue superfan is, but I'm starting to see through the release of these first 2 singles, and doing these opening dates for Charlie, that what do they eat? They probably love a nice meal at Texas Roadhouse, probably. Nothing fancy. They'd probably get a, like, Patron and soda water and a lime because the Patron is good, but it's super cheap at Texas Roadhouse, that kind of thing. Um, but their music tastes are incredible. So I had a guy comment, um, you know, however this lands for a woman is a certain way, but I think I caught the sentiment of what he was trying to say. And he said, yesterday, he said, she's like a female Tyler Childers. Okay, I'm gonna stay here for this. And so I'm a huge Tyler fan. So I said, you know what? I can't say I don't like that. However his brain's processing what he's hearing. Um, and so, yeah, and they probably love Dolly Parton, which is a phenomenon to me because I never ever set out to sing or sound like her. And I since this album has been rolling out, or these singles, I don't stop getting that very sweet comparison. Like, the way when people do it, it's such a sweet uh little toss in. So yeah. Yeah, Texas Roadhouse, Tyler, Dolly,
Okay,
some Waylon stuff.
yeah. I mean, that's a good combination. Love that.
That's a good hang, I
Yeah.
think.
I mean,
Yeah.
you could do way worse, to be honest. Like
I
seriously.
mean, I wanna go to Texas Roadhouse with Dolly, like, that's the goal.
All right. Well, not to completely double down on that. While you're talking, this just actually just hit my mind. So, Dolly's always in her prime. So, like, I'm not gonna like
Mm.
say that she's not in her prime anymore. But
Mhm,
whatever,
mhm,
80s, 70s, 80s, 90s. When she was,
mhm.
you could say, okay, Dolly Parton is like the embodiment of America, right?
That's right.
Blonde, blue eyes, grew up in the South. Sings like a bird. All the things, right?
Yeah.
In many ways, here in 2026, you and your background and your profile and kind of your persona is sort of the representation of America in 2026, don't you think?
Mm. Well, I love that you said, "Don't you think?" 'Cause I've never really thought of that way, and it's really sweet that you're thinking of it that way. And it's wild because I had a friend, my friend James, he said to me, um, Alicia, when I think of you, I think of America. And I didn't know what he meant, and now you're the second person saying that to me. And I think the only thing I could say is, well, when I think of Charlie, I think of America in a few different ways. And I think in a certain way, I guess I can really receive what you're saying because I, you know, America has changed in its psyche. There's always been all kinds of people here, but now the psyche of America has grown and expanded to accept all kinds of people, although, of course, there's still horrible things going on. But I think our better halves are super aware that this is America, and I think for me it's a great honor. I think it would be a great honor to, um, represent anything good from a group of people that appeals to their higher nature. So,
Okay.
yeah, sorry, that was a bit long-winded.
No, it's good. Well, I also think that, again, it's easy to paint a brush on country music as sort of, very Southern white, beer
Mhm,
cans, pickup trucks,
mhm,
guns,
mhm,
breakups, all, that whole thing. But again, if you look
mhm.
back at the history of country music, to its credit, it's been more inclusive than I think what it gets credit for, especially with women, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Charlie Pride, being
Mhm,
African American, and I think like
mhm,
some of the people that I've interviewed just in the last year, and you may or may not know them, but your background as a Mexican American.
mhm.
There's a woman in Nashville named Twinny who's like British, and she was a gypsy. At
Cool.
some point,
Oh, cool.
she's come over. I've interviewed this guy named Omer Netzer, who's from Israel, is Jewish. He's in
Wow.
Nashville. There's a guy, Louis the singer, who's Mexican American, grew up in Fort Worth. Now,
Mm.
now part of country music. So I think it's this like really cool sort of storyline on country music.
Oh,
I guess,
yeah.
do you feel like you're part of that and
Mhm,
accepted yet, or is there still
mm.
a little bit of an outsider mentality?
Someone asked me if I feel how do I feel about Nashville if they've accepted me, and I said, if I'm gonna be really honest, I've never thought about if Nashville has accepted me. I can certainly say that, um, like, if you really want me to zoom out, I can totally say, like, "Oh, yeah, I'm not doing middle down the road, like, what's considered country," which is really, like, pop music, with some twang right now,
Mhm.
and, um to each their own. And I can admit, sure, what I'm doing is certainly different. But when I think of my heroes and I think of, the guy on my shirt or Dolly, I mean, they're just telling real stories, and that's all I'm doing. And I
Mhm.
just don't see the difference. And
Mhm.
I'm not going to get into some argument about what's real country music, but to me, that's real music. That's real music to me. And that's music that, when they're dead, and obviously some of those people are dead, we're still gonna sing those songs, and that's the kind of artist I always wanted to be. I mean, I'm sorry, but when a song's gonna be around in 25 years. You just,
True.
like, we don't have to pretend.
I think again, I didn't really say it that well, but in kind of an ironic way, like country music is like this melting pot. And I think when I see your background, not just the fact that your Mexican heritage, but your musical influences through the years, like you've got this crazy story and journey around some of the influences. Like, was it Malcolm Hayes?
Yeah,
This kind of
yeah.
blues soulful guy, and then you learned a lot apparently from a Thai cover musician who did you
Mhm.
learn guitar from that woman? Is that right?
Yeah, I learned how to I'd never played an instrument. I didn't grow up singing. I was in my last year of college. I wanted to be a poet. That's what I was going to school for, writing. And making the big bucks as a poet. And, I met this aging soul singer in Hollywood, and, he needed help. Like, he couldn't walk. And so I was cleaning his, really crappy apartment just to help him out, and found these old records with his name on it, Columbia Records. And I said, "Can I take these home?" And I went and listened to him, and he sounded like Marvin Gaye meets Johnny Mathis. It was wild. And I'm like, "This is you, producer Barry White." I couldn't believe, like, who is this guy who obviously never made it, but is, a gem. And so I said, "Can you teach me how to sing?" And I just learned music that way from the streets. It was a really seedy part of Hollywood at the time, and like for 2 years I just was mentored by him, listened to the best of soul, really, and some blues and jazz. But Aretha will still be like my number one. It was yeah. So I really tried to be a soul singer, but I just couldn't do it. And then Nong, she took me to get my first guitar and taught me some basics of finger picking, and that's like kind of how I got started.
Yeah.
I even sang at a Thai restaurant in Thai for $60, and I got fired after 3 gigs. She got me the gig.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
That was my first time performing in front of people, music ever, like literally ever.
I mean, there's gigs and there's gigs. That's I've never heard of that. That's awesome.
And so it was wild.
Yeah. Well, how did those, I'll call it like cultural collisions, like you can't really make that up if you wanted to, that sort of education and influence, how did that prepare you for Nashville?
That's a great question. I think in a way I'd seen it all, I started music so late in my life, and I gave it everything, and I knew I had to, because I wasn't a child learning how to sing. I wasn't a child learning an instrument. So I slept on floors. I lived in poverty, and I always had a roof over my head, but it was poverty, and I chose it because I wanted to completely immerse myself and become great at this thing. So by the time I got to Nashville, I just didn't really care what anyone thought. I mostly didn't care. And I had already done all of that, caring in California, and it didn't work. It doesn't work when you care what people think, and it doesn't work when you, doubting doesn't work. Doubting yourself, doubting how good you are. You just have to keep getting better. And so by the time I got to Nashville, and I don't even, especially culturally, like, Black mentor, Thai mentor, I'm Mexican. No one cared. No one saw that. Like, we were just, music was the language, and greatness and precision and those kinds of themes. And I feel like in Nashville, whatever everyone else is seeing with the filter, I just don't see it. And I don't care if you're projecting that on me, good for you, but I'm going to like probably just walk right through that because I don't care.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I'm sounding a bit sassy now.
Hey man, it's all good. You can get away with it with that outfit. Complete sassiness.
That's right. Oh, the sass. I thought you meant the, like, I don't care what you think. I'm like, yeah, exactly. I can't walk out in this fringe and care what people think. That's for sure.
Yeah. All right. So I want to get back to, Country Desire in a second, but can we rewind a little bit? Cause I do have a question about your song Incognito.
Oh, wow. You did some deep work.
I have to, this is like the real deal here, just like you are the real deal.
I love that. I love that you did that.
So Incognito, it's a story of, you talked about like country music and telling real stories. So if you can give us, a little bit of like your view on what that song came from. For me, what I think is really interesting is, based on that description that you're going to hopefully share with us in a second, it's almost like you were like this voiceless child, that was observing kind of different things. Most of them, some things not so great. But what's cool now is like you're kind of this voiceless child, and now you've got a microphone and a stage, right? So I'd love for you to like tell us about that song, but also that sort of evolution of who you are as a person and as an artist now. And could you imagine like when you were growing up, kind of the opportunity that you have now, right?
Mm-mm. That's such a great point you're making. No, no, everyone in my family is, just super blue collar, hardworking, and no one is an artist. No one, you know, had that opportunity to really do something different in that way. Um, and my dad's from Mexico. My mom's like third generation Mexican American. So um, part of my growing up, and it's still as people don't know I'm Mexican off the bat, and especially as a child, you know, I would hear conversations as a little girl playing at my friend's house. Like, we'd be playing on her lawn, and she'd say, like, "Ew, the gardeners are here. Ew." And I'd be like, "Wow, those are my people," but she doesn't know that. And I couldn't say that because I'm, 5 years old or 6 years old or whatever when you start grade school. And um or I wasn't raised to stand up to that because there's so much assimilation and fitting in culturally. My grandfather was raised in Arizona on my mom's side, and he was like hit in school for if he got caught speaking Spanish. So the assimilation is intense. So I think the voiceless thing, it couldn't be more true, and I think it's just true for so many people. And I think now we're getting to a place where a song was really healing for me. I had to tell the truth, yeah,
Mm.
I had to let that out because it's poison, if I were to held on to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So Present Country Desire, like we talked about coming out, I guess with this album, where do you think you are as an artist, and where do you want to be?
That's a giant question. Where do I think I am?
Yeah. And again, there's no metric or measurement necessarily. It's just like, okay, I
Mhm.
think I am where I
Mhm.
am. And, I think, but I want to learn, and I want to do big things. I just want to kind of compare and contrast
Mm.
where your mind and heart is set.
Oh yeah. Oh gosh. I I am so confident in myself as an artist. That part, I think that's my gift. I think that's the thing that I don't doubt it. I don't doubt. For me, I love writing songs. It's the thing I know got me in the room here with you. I know it's what got me in the room with Shooter. I know it's what has taken me everywhere. Although I do work on my voice, it's gotten better. So that's a thing now. My voice, people talk about that. That's a new thing, which I'm grateful for. So I think where I'm at is with this record, I'm a little baby rose ready to just open up really for the first time in a very real way, in a way that can be for forever. Um, and then on to tell you, like, the vision though, the sky is the limit for me. I've got, I don't think I've really said this to anyone. I don't know if I should, but I have my next two records written. I mean, I have the songs. Um, and I feel quite sure about, I love the tunes on this record. Until I die, I'm gonna want to sing them. And I've never felt that way, but these next ones, I feel quite sure about them. And I think the sky's the limit. I think, however it works or whoever it's resonating with, I can't control, but you know, I don't mind singing to the most gigantic crowd on planet Earth. That's fine with me if it's helping.
Well, I love the confidence. I guess how much did the willingness and interest that Shooter Jennings took in you, how much did that actually elevate your confidence even more? Like, what did that mean to you?
Oh gosh, that healed so much in me. I mean, when we met, I had no record label, I had no money, and I didn't believe he wanted to meet me, first of all, so that shocked me. He was like my top dream choice producer. So that meeting happens. I couldn't believe that it even happened, and I was so scared to tell him that I didn't have a record deal because how's this man going to get paid if he did happen to like me? So in a way, I was scared if he actually did like my songs. And so we're listening to him in his mix room over at Sunset Sound Studio C. And he looks at me. We're listening to my demos, and he's like smiling, he's nodding. He's like, "I can do this." He goes, "I can make this music." And I was like, trying not to get excited. And he's like, "I'd love to make your next record." And I was like, "Oh shit. Okay." Didn't I thought I was just gonna meet him and then I'd hear from management, next week. He liked you, when you get a deal, like let's talk. Um, if it had gone well, that's what I thought would have happened. And so I'm like sitting in my chair next to him and I'm like, "I need to be honest with you. I don't have a record deal." And he said, he just unfazed, he said, "Oh, I'm not worried about that. You're going to be a really big artist." And that was it for me. And then the whole process of making the record, it's like, Bob Dylan says, fate is that feeling inside of you that only you know is true and no one else knows. And it's almost like whatever that is inside me or was up until that moment with Shooter, he just almost like gave permission for it to be like, "Oh, cool, we're good." And it literally, like, I've never looked back since, no pun intended. Like literally that moment was like, "Oh yeah, cool. Everything you thought, legit." Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah.
Did you end up signing with anybody, or is this released as an independent record?
Yeah, we did. So, and he had so much confidence. I'm like, "Really?" Like, he's like, "No, don't worry." He's like, "This is gonna work out for you." And but he, obviously his name means a lot to people, but he let the universe do its thing. It took a minute I had some meetings with some huge people and I couldn't believe it because I have no metrics. But none of them moved. I mean, they were all like, "We love it." And then they like, do the like
Yeah.
waiting game. And time was ticking. 6 months had gone by. Still all these, I'm playing for another person. It's just like this weird middle state. And I don't know what it's like being on that side, so I'm not even gonna go into it. I don't even, want to spend my time doing that. But um there's this really great label in Nashville called 30 Tigers, and they started this new imprint called Soundly Music.
Hmm.
So the 30 Tigers Soundly label is the label I'm on,
All right.
which when I first moved to Nashville, that was my dream label to be on because they had some of my heroes like Jason Isbell on it, Lucinda Williams, etc. Yeah.
Well, congrats. That's huge. Well done.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
All right. Well, Alicia, I really appreciate your time. I guess this podcast is inspired by a number of different things in my life. I started when I turned 50, and I'm a big believer in curiosity. So that's kind of the theme. I think it's underrated in personal relationships and business relationships and romantic relationships. I guess at this stage, again, on the precipice of this album and kind of what you've seen and experienced and now being in Nashville, I guess, what are you most curious about?
I love curiosity too, by the way. I think it's the fuel of life, in fact. Um, I'm most curious about, I think I'm most curious about this might sound, I'm even shocked that this is what arose in me right now. I think I'm really most curious about the cool kind of friendship I'm going to get to have with my fans that's just starting to begin right now. This is new for me and it's something the girl who was pre-Incognito could have never imagined. So I'm so curious at the joys of that and what it's going to feel like.
All right. Love that. Great answer. All right. Well, again, congrats on Country Desire. It's so a pleasure to meet you. Good luck on the road. Keep doing it. Keep building that fan base, and hope to see you in Atlanta sometime.
I can't wait. Thank you so much for hanging out tonight.
Awesome.